Welcome aboard, everybody. It is week 2 of the Sports Zone Chicago Barely Tailgate Show. I'm your co-host, Michael Halatek, with Ivan Vargas, my fellow co-host. Ivan, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great, Mike. I can't wait. I'm excited for week 2. Week 1 was I guess it was a heart attack waiting to happen. But then the Bears came out and pulled it through.
It was interesting. We have an important announcement to make this morning. We have a sponsor for our show. I don't know if you can see it. Tickblitz.com. Every ticket, every venue, everywhere. No service fees. Make sure you get on board with TixBlitz.com. If you use promo code BEARS, all in caps, you save 5% on your entire order, and you never have to worry about paying a service fee at TixBlitz.com. And every ticket is 100% guaranteed. So we're certainly glad to have TixBlitz join our show. Ivan, it was a kind of a scare last week. They fell behind 23-6, but they were able to mount an incredible comeback. So we're gonna recap that game real quick, and then we've got a special guest joining us to talk about Bears Lions, and then we'll get into our keys to the game, the injury report, and the inactive list. The inactive list just came out, and Edwards is active, Quinn is active, Mack is active. So there was a couple of surprises on the inactive list, and we'll get into that later. But first off, Bears 27, Lions 23. Mitch Trubisky 20 of 36 after a slow start for 230 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's 4 games in a row that Mitch Trubisky has thrown for 3 touchdowns against the Detroit Lions, with a quarterback rating of 104.2.
You know what? It was good to see him come back in the fourth. I feel like we keep continuously see Mitch stepping up in the face of adversity, but I need to see that. I need to see a fast start. I need to see that in the first 3 quarters. I'm tired of seeing that late in the game when we're trailing, or when the game's on the line. I don't like to see that. Matt Nagy's offense. Matt Nagy was brought here to put up points. You're supposed to put points on the board. I don't want to see a slow start again this week. I like the fact that they ran the football to start the game last week. I like the fact that they continued to run the football, and I think that's going to benefit Mitch Trubisky in the long run. But look, it's like I said, I feel like we've seen this before, and granted, it was the Lions again. Even though the Lions I thought played exceptional for the first three quarters, I mean it's hard to it's still hard for me to judge Mitch Trubisky right now. I want to say he's a bust, but then I want to say look at the potential. So I want to see consistency. So this first month, is going to be telling, because Mitch's job is on the line. His NFL career, if you want to take it, and I think he should take it as such, is on the line. So he needs to step up in these next few weeks.
You're absolutely right. Talking about the running game, it was surprising to see Montgomery as effective as he was. He didn't play every snap. But he did have 13 carries for 64 yards for basically a 5-yard per carry average. So impressed. I was impressed with the way the line blocked. On receiving, Anthony Miller was the star of the game. And you know who called that last week in last game's pregame show? He ended up with 4 receptions on 6 targets for 76 yards and the game-winning touchdown. Allen Robinson was the target leader. He was targeted 9 times, but he only grabbed 5 for 74 yards. And Jimmy Graham had 7 targets. He only caught 3, though. 2 additional ones he should have had.
Should have.
For only 25 yards, but he did score the Bears' first touchdown in their comeback bid in the fourth quarter. Defensively, when you kind of hinted on this when you first got started here this morning. They were a little iffy. They did have 3 and outs, but they were all in the first half. They held Stafford to only a passer rating of 77.2, but that was mostly because of that late interception. He had a pretty good game. Each team only had one sack in the game, which I was surprised since they had a rookie guy. They had a second stringer in on the offensive line, a rookie on another position on the offensive line, and we just didn't get there. And part of the problem was, with the lead and with the game being close in the first half, Detroit's offense was very balanced. Mm-hmm. And anytime you have a balanced offense, you can keep the defensive line from really pinning their ears back and attacking the quarterback. So, like you said, getting off to a quick start offensively would be a real key to our defense playing well. Time of possession was another problem. The Detroit Lions held the ball for 31 minutes. Despite the Bears owning the fourth quarter, when you looked at the game, the second quarter, it looked like, especially when they made that mistake late in the second quarter, they being the Bears, and they were able to give the ball back to the Detroit Lions, and they came down and scored. And of course, they got the ball to start the second half. They scored again, and all of a sudden, the Bears are down by 14 points. And in that drive, even though they just came out of the tunnel for the halftime, Bears defense looked tired. Bears defense looked tired, and then they kicked the field goal. So now we're down by 17 going into the fourth quarter.
Right, and like I said, they looked exhausted. It was this resurgence of Adrian Peterson, and I don't know if it's for one game. I don't know if he was just jacked up because he just got released from the Washington football team, and now he's with his new team. I don't know if he was just riding high on, hey, it's opening day, I'm starting, and he took it to the Bears. But he historically he usually takes it to the Bears. But that mix of that balance of run and pass, and like you said, Matt Stafford controlled the Bears. I thought he controlled us up until they made a play and got that interception from Kyle Fuller, but. That was scary to watch a Detroit Lions offense with an actual running game.
It was scary, and I think Peterson ended up with almost 100 yards, just under 100 yards rushing on the day. But the two keys to this game that turned the tide for the Bears was when Prater missed the field goal, hit the post from about 53 yards, and of course this was crucial. The Bears had scored their first touchdown in the fourth quarter, got the ball back. Trubisky was sacked and fumbled, but was it Leno? That came back and pounced on the ball to allow the Bears to punt the ball away. And then, of course, the Bears had two possessions, and they scored their touchdown. This is my third co-host. Her name is Peyton. So anyway, back to what we were talking about. It was that missed field goal, that fumble recovery, and then of course the magic that happened with the interception, and of course the great catch by Anthony Miller. He had a couple of really great catches in that fourth quarter, which led to the ultimate victory for the Bears.
What was bigger to you, Mike, the Prater miss or the fumble recovery? Because, like, to me, when they marched Prater out there for that field goal, I was like, oh, this is in the bag. I was like, this is it. Like, how can you, even with a comeback, how can you come back from, being short 3 points? And call it luck, call it whatever it is. Like, the Bears did luck out, but let's not forget the end of it. Like, the end of it, like I said, the Bears defense, for some reason, we're just out of position, the linebackers especially. And the whole game, you could see the Bears, they get the Lions into third down and then boom, conversion. They'd get the Lions into a second and long and they convert that. It was just chunks of yardage in the middle of the field that I didn't like. And even at the end, and up until the end of the game with that DeAndre Swift, gift, I was like, well, where was his coverage? Where was the coverage at?
Yeah. You can tag that one, the Swift gift. I love it. Yeah, but falling on that fumble was critical because you're going to give Detroit a short field and give them new life after you had just come down and scored to make it a 23-13 game. that was the key. And of course, the missed field goal, that was like that's what gave the Bears that spark of life that allowed them to come down and get those 2 quick touchdowns to end the game. But another good sign in that game. Last thought on the Bears Lions before we move to the Giants is the Bears only committed 6 penalties for only 48 yards, so that was impressive. All 4 defensive backs, the starting cornerbacks and the starting safeties, are the only players on the Bears' defensive side of the ball that played 100% of the snaps. But when we get into the inactives, we're going to see some guys that we didn't see last week, most notably Robert Quinn and Ed Edwards. So it'll be interesting to see what the Bears do, and we'll talk about that starting right now. So we have a special guest that you're going to introduce to our pregame listeners.
Yeah, we have a special guest from the Humidor Sports Podcast on Saturdays from noon to 2, Kevin Lauder. One of the Smoke Fellows. I produce the podcast. It's a great podcast. But this is Kevin Lauder, big Giants fan. What's up, Kev?
What's up? How's it going, fellas?
It's going.
As you all can see, I have the best running back in the game's jersey on today. I will be around a lot of Bears fans today. Let's go.
Hey, Kev, welcome aboard the Barely Pregame Show. We're glad you're here.
Appreciate it.
A lot like the Bears game early on, the Pittsburgh and the Giants seemed to be in a boxing match where they were just kind of sparring with each other before a couple of body shots got landed by Pittsburgh. And what Pittsburgh did to stop Barkley was impressive. They were blitzing 5. They were rushing 5 or 6 guys. They were blitzing through the gaps to stop the run. It was a run-stop blitz that was most effective, and only when it was 3rd and long did they fade back into coverage and only rush 4. It seemed like they were blitzing about 60% of the time. What was your thoughts on last week's game?
That's true. Saquon Barkley was getting tackled as soon as he caught the ball. So, in other words, when Daniel Jones turned the hand on the ball, Pittsburgh was in the backfield already. So their goal was to stop Saquon. But believe it or not, I don't know if you guys agree with this. The Giants, at the beginning of the game, the Giants were actually moving the ball down the field. They were getting field goals instead of touchdowns. And the interception Daniel Jones threw in the end zone when it got popped up was just ridiculous. That was really the game. But we couldn't run the ball. But on the flip side, we were getting after Ben at first until we got wore out. We were getting after Ben. The Giants were flying all over the field. I hadn't seen the defense like that since the 2011 Super Bowl. So I was happy to see that at first. I was, whoa, we got a defense this year. But then it's the same offensive line. Mm-hmm. So if the Bears watch that tape and they blitz us like that, and now you got Quinn and Matt, that scares me. No doubt. That's scary. Yeah,
absolutely. But, the New York Giants defense was really stout against the run, Pittsburgh's run, but they kept – that's what the Bears have to do today is they have to stay at it, because in the third quarter, those runs that were stopped for 2 or 3 yards became 7, 8, 15-yard runs, and that's exactly what the Bears have to do this week.
So, Kevin, let me talk to you about a little bit about Joe Judge and that offense with Daniel Jones. Last week, and we clowned about it a little bit on the show yesterday. It looked bleak from the running game. It looked bleak. You got, like you said, and I believe it. You got the best running back in the league in Saquon Barkley, but 66 yards is not going to cut it. And there was certain times, especially like we said, that first drive where they get that muff punt, they're at the 1, and then. Like I told you, I was like, why isn't it Saquon until you punch it in? It just seemed to me that there's tiptoeing going on in how to utilize Saquon. And like we were talking before the show, now that you have Jason Garrett on board, Jason Garrett has had in his control 2 generational type running backs. Why doesn't he like to run the ball?
I have no idea. And I hope either the owner, the general manager, maybe even the coach, all week has said, hey, you see that guy number 26? Make sure he's involved in the offense. Now, maybe he couldn't just make an adjustment because of the way you said Pittsburgh was blitzing him and they were focused on Saquon, and maybe Jason Garrett just couldn't make the adjustment all game. I don't know. But hopefully he has a better game plan this week, especially in the red zone. Give Saquon the ball in the red zone, man. Come on. Now, you got one of the best running backs in the league. Like I said, we were moving the ball. We just come punch it in. But you have Saquon Barkley. So, Jason Garrett, please, utilize, or either throw the ball to him off the backfield. Do that. But you got to get the man involved, man. Come on now.
You got to put the ball in his hands, and it's like it reminds me of it's going to be the go-to comparison when you don't run the football in the red zone. Pete Carroll in the Super Bowl. You run Marshawn Lynch when you're in the red zone. You run Saquon Barkley when you're within 5 yards because the guy could fall forward for 5 yards. The guy could run. He could run over your defensive lineman for 5 yards. Yeah. So to me, it doesn't make sense in how you're utilizing him. I wouldn't be shocked if Barkley becomes frustrated if they don't get it going, for him. But let's talk about that defense a little bit, especially with the Bears. Like the Bears offensive line looked okay, especially running the ball. But as much pressure as you guys are putting on Big Ben, I fully expect that pressure to be put on the Bears' offensive line.
I agree, and hopefully we come out with the same intensity, come out with the same flying all over the place, getting to the quarterback like they did in the first half. If we can make Mitch turn the ball over, throw an interception, fumble, get to him, make him rush the ball quick, and go up and score, like, to me, the Bears don't score a lot. And if the Giants can get up, let's say they get a couple touchdowns, let's say they get Saquon, let's say they focus on Saquon, and let's say they get up, then you can turn that defense up and come after Mitch. I hope, two things I hope. Either the Giants recover and focus on Saquon and get the offense and punch the ball in the end zone, but I hope this is not a comeback week for the Bears defense because Detroit was killing them at first. So I hope because Quinn comes back, just because this is my team, I hope Quinn, Matt, they don't get going because we don't have an offensive line. So that scares me. The game can go either way to me. It scares me.
Last week, Daniel Jones was 26 for 41 for 279 yards. He had 2 touchdowns, but he threw 2 interceptions. The one that was at the goal line in the third quarter was just an absolute killer. Of course, those 2 picks dropped his quarterback rating down to a paltry 79.2. Saquon, his average yards per carry after contact, so when he was first contacted by a defender, was -7 yards. To your point, Kev, they were absolutely in his face all game long. Your offensive line also allowed 3 sacks. But one of those picks was, C.J. Watt playing on the edge as the edge rusher, read the play perfectly, faded back into coverage, and leaped up and grabbed the ball. Just one of the best athletic plays of the week, I thought, by an edge rush. But like I said, Pittsburgh constantly blitzing unless it was 3rd and long. That was about the only time they only sent 4 guys into the backfield when they were, and let's face it, because of the ineptitude of the offensive line getting anything open for Saquon, you were constantly in 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 20. So they could afford to just drop back in coverage and play the ball and let Jones throw the ball underneath and then just attack. So what do you think let's just lay it on the line. What's your call for today's game?
I call for Saquon to be the focal point. I don't think the Bears will do the exact same thing that Pittsburgh does. But I worry about the rushers, Quinn and Matt and Hicks. I worry about all that, obviously. But I think if Daniel Jones can get the ball out quick, or he can roll out because he's good at running, and you throw the ball to Saquon out, let's say screens or something like that, I think if the Giants score, it'll get the defense going. Naturally, I'm picking the Giants today. I think Saquon will be a big part of this. I like Ingram because I saw what Hutchinson did last week with Detroit. I like Ingram today. We got to use him while he's healthy because we don't know how long he'll be healthy. So we got to use Ingram and Saquon. I think I'm picking the Giants today. I know it's going to be turmoil if the Bears lose, but I'm picking the Giants.
You got a score, Kev? You got an idea of a score?
2017.
Okay.
20-17, a low-scoring game. All right, Kevin, appreciate you coming on board with us, and maybe we can have you back again when the Giants and Bears make it to the postseason. Or of course, they've played 3 years in a row now, so maybe they'll play them again.
I know.
All right, thanks, Kevin.
Cool.
Thanks, Kevin.
Appreciate you guys, man. Take it easy.
Hey, do we have a commercial spot lined up for our sponsor, my friend?
Yes, we do. You ready to go?
We're ready.
I just heard my favorite band is in town. I'd love to get good seats, but everywhere I've looked, the ticket sites have crazy service fees.
Haven't you heard of TixSplits?
Who?
TixSplits. They don't gouge you with crazy fees. The price they advertise is the price you pay, plus a small delivery fee.
Never pay service fees again. Go to TixSplits.com today. TixSplits.com. Guaranteed seats, low prices. That's TixSplits.com. Every ticket, every venue, everywhere.
TixSplits.com. Thanks again for joining our show, and every ticket, every venue, everywhere. It's now time for our keys to the game. And Ivan, I'm literally gonna say exactly what Kevin didn't say. Is the keys to the game is to run blitz.
Yeah.
To contain Barkley, maintain a balanced offense, stay with that running game. You want to keep those short passes to keep the defense off guard and maintain possession of the ball, so you don't give the ball back to the Giants. And if they're going to be run blitzing, that means they have to stay aggressive with press man coverage.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? I want to see more. I just want to see him settled a little bit, because I feel like that first quarter we just saw kind of an unsettled defense. I want him to stay more disciplined, especially in the middle of the field. And to be honest with you, pressure. I need pressure. You got Quinn in there now. There's no more excuses. Last week I didn't see enough pressure until late in the game. I need to see pressure. I generate it some way, somehow. That's how we get turnovers. That's how the turnover was manifested late in the game last week. That's how it's going to be brought to fruition throughout the season. So you got to generate pressure.
Absolutely. So that leads us right into the inactives for this week. Both Mario Edwards and Quinn are active. Of course, Kolomakis is active, which we expected. Josh Woods is inactive, and that was kind of a mystery. He kind of left. He had some personal issues on Friday. Arlington Hambright makes his second appearance on the inactive list. Riley Ridley is also inactive for the second week in a row. Duke Shelley is inactive for the second week in a row. And in two surprises, Ted Ginn is inactive and Travis Gibson is inactive. So with Travis being inactive, they're assuming that Robert Quinn is going to be a full go for this week. And the Ted Ginn inactive is surprising until you take a look at what was being said after the game last week, where Darnell Mooney played really well. He only had 3 receptions, but he was very impressive in the catches that he did have and some of the movements that he made. So I expect to see Darnell Mooney getting a few more balls thrown his way. So
you know what, Mike, you're absolutely right, and I don't know if you feel the same way as I do, but I kind of just groaned to Darnell Mooney in 3 catches, just the way that he handled himself, and the way and the possession, the way that he caught the ball, the way that he ran after the catch, and then there was one play where he caught the ball, was down, and he tried to get back up and make a play, and usually you don't typically see that from rookies. Usually they just kind of like, oh, I'm down, and they forget that they could get up and run. But Darnell Mooney, he looks the part. He looks like he's First of all, we've heard all offseason that he's been hungry. He's had a chip, and he looks like he's going to give us all he's got. And I like what I've seen in 3 catches.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's time now for the History Corner, brought to you by TickSplits.com. The Bears have won 9 championships in their illustrious history. 3 of those came at the feet of the New York Giants. If you remember, back before the Super Bowl era, there was an Eastern Conference and a Western Conference, and the Bears were in the West. So they won the Western Conference, and the Giants won the Eastern Conference. There was no playoffs back then. It was just the top 2 teams meeting for the NFL title. And the Bears won 2 games against the Giants in the 30s. And, of course, the last championship the Bears won before the Super Bowl era was in 1963, when the Bears defeated the Giants at Wrigley Field by a score of 14-10. And the Bears are 34-24-2 all time versus the Giants, including 5-3 in the postseason. Last but not least, the pick is in. I've got the Bears 27-10 over the Giants. They're going to win by 2 scores.
I got a little bit more than that. I got 34-10. I think we see a offense that goes fast. We'll say to keep it simple, it's going to go fast to start because Mitch said it himself from the horse's mouth. He said, "I do better when I'm thinking less." So that means quick tempo, get the ball out of your hands, see the play, read the play, and react.
So let me ask you this: do you think you're going to see a muddle huddle with the Bears offense and getting to the line quickly and letting him just react?
I would hope so. Like these are things that I would hope to see to start the game, and it's time. Like I said it last week on my show that follows our show. Mitch, at halftime I was like, this is it. Like this is it. If he's not pulled at the half, he's done after this game. So he has to show us something. And again, it's going to be the same MO every single game. What are you going to show me this game? Are you going to take another step this game? And until he can do it consistently, there's always going to be doubt.
Absolutely. Last thing before we leave for this week, there was an announcement either late last night or early this morning that the Bears have extended Tariq Cohen. Not the extension 99% of Bear fans were hoping for. We want to see Allen Robinson, but I'm confident that will come. But Tariq Cohen is now extended for 3 more years.
I like it. The thing, of course, we all want Allen. Yeah, I think that's pretty much a gimme. But you saw what happened with Allen. Like there was a stoppage in the talks. Are the Bears expected to not go after another player that is key to what they're trying to do in order to cater to Allen? I don't think so. So I'm just happy to see Tariq sign. Now go ahead and get Allen.
I think you're going to see a big game from Tariq today because of that. So let's hope I'm right. I was right last week with my pick to click of Anthony Miller. And I think that Tariq is going to be the guy. With that, that's our show for this week. I hope you tell all your friends to stay in tune. And I believe Tick Splits is going to be giving us some tickets to give away for a game next year. So get with us. Make sure you hit the like button on YouTube, and we'll see you next week.